President Trump putting the squeeze on what he calls very anti-Semitic Harvard. His administration's pulling the plug on the remaining $100 million in federal contracts with the elite Ivy League school after already freezing $3 billion. President Trump says Harvard failed to turn over the full list of its foreign students so the Trump administration can identify, quote, radical lunatics and troublemakers that should not be let back into the United States.
They refuse to tell us who the people are. We want to know who the people. Now, a lot of the foreign students we wouldn't have a problem with. I'm not going to have a problem with foreign students, but it shouldn't be 31%. It's too much. We want a list of those foreign students, and we'll find out whether or not they're okay.
All right, someone at this table went to Harvard.
Yes.
Oh, there she is.
Oh,
wait, they let women in?
You'd be surprised what they let schools do these days.
Yeah.
That's
right?
amazing. Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
Wow.
Thank you. I wanted to be Al Woods, and they let me. No, look, Bill Ackman also went to Harvard, and he put out this tweet. I thought they were supposed to be 180 characters. It goes 6 pages, 12.5 times
Probably
New
has
Roman.
special access.
It's really good, though. He says he loves Harvard, and he greatly benefited from it. I put myself in that category. I love it. I greatly benefited from it. But what gets me in his letter, he talks about he has made personal outreach to Harvard because he wants to help. And the president said he would call him back. And the president hasn't even called him back. This is the man you need to help. He put together a very thoughtful piece about why did you sue Hegseth in his personal capacity? Why did you sue Bondi, McMahon? There's no legal reason for that. You could have sued the government. You sued these people to harass them. It's a really well thought out 6-page document. And Harvard, get in a room with the Trump administration. Fix this. Because you're going to go down in the rankings. You start losing money or losing students. Get in a room and fix it.
You think Harvard was filled with sophisticated people that could handle something like this. Why haven't they been able to come to an agreement with the Trump administration, Harold?
I don't know. I hope they were able to quickly, Jesse, because I agree. There's so many great Americans who've come from that university. And I think they are becoming a little bit of a metaphor for some of the things that the Trump administration, I think largely we've had a conversation around this table, and Dana has been an instigator and a leader in this regard. We've talked about the cost of higher education. And, you know, even during the Biden administration, when they tried to retire all of Americans' student debt, it was unconstitutional. They shouldn't have done it. They kept doing it. I would say to Democrats, you supported that, but you don't support when Trump, some of you did, you don't support when Trump is, I think, violating what the court is saying by doing some of the things he's doing, but we have to be consistent in that regard. But we shouldn't conflate the fact that we do need more engineers and plumbers and electricians in the country, that we do need to provide more routes into the employment ranks in our country by educating and training young people, and for that matter, middle-aged people who may want to switch professions. But where I differ with the president, this isn't the way to do it. The way to do it is to actually drill down and get very specific. The example that Kayleigh gave regarding Bill Ackman, maybe there's a reason the president of the school has not contacted Bill, but Bill makes some good points. I disagree with him on a lot of things, but I think he's a really smart guy, and I think he loves his university. We are the most innovative country in the world. We are the most important country in the world. We have the greatest military in the world. We have the best universities in the world. This is what provides us leverage as a nation. And I would only hope that saner minds, saner heads, because President Trump, I think, is trying to get at something good here. I just don't like the way he's doing it. There's no need to go after these universities, these top research centers like you are, because you may have a political issue. I think cleaning up and making them be stronger in how they protect students on campus, be they Jewish students or any students, is something they must do. But when you take a school like Harvard, which I don't believe we have a greater, and I went to the University of Pennsylvania, University of Michigan, and I love these schools. But there's not a university asset, a college asset in the world that is more aligned with excellence than Harvard has been throughout its existence. We got to fix it and not destroy it. And I think what President Trump is doing is bordering on something not good here.
Well, what is the argument that it's not good? He's saying, can you hand over the list of foreign students that you're letting in because we have a national security situation and an anti-Semitism situation?
Right. So one of the things that over and over again, I think is a problem is it's not clear what is the problem we are trying to solve.
Right.
Okay. So I think if the White House could say this is the exact problem we want to solve, then be a little bit more clear. Is it anti-Semitism? Like even like with trade, is it this? Is it that? It could change. It could be all of those things. And I think what Harvard is failing to do is one, say, sir, what problem do you want us to solve? Like, let's talk about it. And you don't have to do it in public. Do it behind this closed doors. Everybody's got good lawyers. Go behind closed doors and say, how do we get this done? What I liked hearing from him is that he said, I'm not against foreign students being here. He said, we're not against the people. In fact, we're probably fine with most of them. Okay, that's a great starting place. All right, so let's start there. If you feel like, if you're at Harvard and you think most of your students are great, let's talk it all through. We can go through and do it behind the scenes. It doesn't have to be public, and nobody has to be shamed. And maybe everybody's fine, and that ends up being good. But I do believe that this opens up another question, which is the bigger problem we should try to solve, which is which ones of our adversaries, I will name China, Russia, and I'm going to throw Qatar in there as well, because they fund a lot of this anti-Semitism stuff across America. They are funding programs at universities to indoctrinate students because they don't want to have to deal with having to be persuasive and lobby our government in Washington, D.C. So what's happened? That's been going on for about 35, 40 years. So now you have the professors are indoctrinated, and it continues on. I also maintain that this doesn't start in college. This is much, much younger, and that's why there's an educational revolt in this country for more school choice or more homeschooling, because people do not want this kind of thing taught to their kids.
And the real question, Greg, is when are they going to go after Brown?
Ugh.
I mean, they're the real villains here.
Shut up, Jesse. We still talking about this?
Yeah, Harvard.
I'm worried about Harvard. I'm also worried about the price of Fabergé eggs, the future development of EV Bentleys. I'm worried about the Hamptons. Sometimes I'll wake up at night and go, my God, are the Hamptons in danger? What if people can no longer go to the Hamptons? Does that mean they'll go to Aspen? It's a city. I love the argument. You know, if he keeps at it with Harvard, some of these students are going to go to Oxford. You don't know what I went home immediately. I told my wife, do you know that while we're talking about, Israel and we're talking about Russia, there's a possibility that some students will be going to Oxford instead of Harvard. I want this issue to be picked up by the Democrats. This should be a hill you should die on. Speak out for the oppressed at Harvard, who almost might have to go to Oxford, God forbid. By the way, you're telling me if Harvard, you're not going to be able to find other families who will pay full price in America? Come on. Jerk-offs.
Oh, man. That was good. Up next, a CBS anchor unloads his TDS on college grads. Click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You won't get it anywhere else.